Hey everybody, so video number 2 here, and on this one I'm talking about living through our worst fears. I'm going to give a couple of these probably today, but on this particular one, I wanted to talk to you about living through some of these big fears that we have as holistic health and wellness business owners, practitioners, instructors. There are a lot of them, and it really does help to stifle the business when we can't conquer them. So I'm going to, in the next few videos, just talk through some of these fears. And a lot of them I've experienced. So not only do I hear you when you um, talk about having these fears, but I've lived through them. So I want to talk to you about surviving, surviving some of the things that you're trying to avoid and how you can actually emerge even in the worst case scenario, if the worst happens, that you can actually survive it. So, one of the things that I hear over and over is this whole idea of imposter syndrome. Who am I? I don't really know what I'm talking about. It's like I kind of do, but there's other things I don't know. What if I get called out? What if I go to speak somewhere or teach and everybody walks out or everybody starts laughing? Or everybody's looking at me like, what is she talking about? We already know that. Like, that's a big fear. Raise your hand if that's like a big fear. It's just like you're teaching, you've together this event, you're up there, you're speaking, you're teaching, and people are not feeling the value. But even worse than that, they're like, what is she talking about? This is basic information, right? So I actually lived through that. So I'll tell you the story. So this was many years ago when I first started in business. I wish I could remember the year. I can't actually. But at the time, my business was around more so just the business side, business marketing, that kind of thing, admin support. And at the time, it was just me and one other person, and she was my admin, and we kind of tackled everything together. So we had this client who had landed a really nice gig where she was going to be presenting and teaching a group of executives, and one portion of that was going to be some of the things in my wheelhouse. So it was more the tech side, like some things with uh, databases and just all that stuff, the tech stuff, landing pages, some of the things that my team and I have become famous for because we just do that stuff that most people in our space, in the health and wellness space, are not necessarily proficient with. But because that had been my background, I knew how to do that kind of stuff coming in. Well, at the time, that's all I was doing was that kind of thing. Well, so my admin and I, we had been getting our client prepared for this speaking event that she had. And it was more of a teaching. It was like a course, a little master class type of thing. We had been getting her prepared. And the day before it was time for her to go in, she calls me and she said, I had this idea. Why don't you come with me and you present? Because you're brilliant at this stuff. I think they would get so much value and it would just be a great opportunity for you. So I was so flattered. And I thought, what a great opportunity. And it's the one thing about me, even though I'm introverted, I have a lot of fears too, let me tell you. But there's something in me that goes for opportunities. I don't shy away from opportunities. And so I said yes. Well, I learned some lessons, and I'm going to tell you about those lessons after I tell you the story. So I said yes, and I go to the event. She completely turns it over to me. And I have my admin like on speed dial, and she's kind of helping me pull up slides. We were unprepared. We had no slides. We only had what we had prepared for her. But remember, this was supposed to be just one section of what she was doing. It was a disaster. It was a disaster. Um, a few minutes in, you're looking at these faces, and people have got their notepads out, and they're ready to be instructed. And then you see these looks of like, this woman doesn't know what she's talking about. And then you see, people are typing and they're talking to one another. And this goes on for about an hour. We had completely lost the room. Nobody was paying attention. Um, but just kept talking. And about an hour or so in, never mind, this was supposed to be a full day, event. Uh, one of the higher ups comes in, stops the presentation, and invites us to leave. Ah, it was the most humiliating thing to date that I've had to experience. And that was before way before I have the business that I have now. So here's what I want to talk to you about some of the lessons that I learned. But I want to say this first. What if I had walked out of that event saying, I am never speaking again. Speaking is not something that's for me. I'm not doing the training thing. And in fact, I don't even know if I should be having a business. This was a mess. It was a disaster. I was crying. My client was crying. It was horrible. It was horrible. I didn't sleep for probably weeks after that. It was really well, I should say. I didn't sleep well. Um, and two kind of interesting things happened with that though. I remember very distinctly, as upset out as I was as it happened, there was a little piece of me that was proud. And I remember saying to myself, but you went for it. You did something that's so big and scary and truly had no business doing. Um, it was a really big deal. And you went right into it. And I realized in that moment that I was going to have a successful business because of that fearlessness and that thing inside of me that said, "Yeah, I'm going to try this. I'm going to do it." Well, here's what I learned on the other side of that. You do want to go into these things prepared. I did not know my audience. So what I found out later is that one of the reasons that we lost the room is that everything I was teaching, these ladies already knew, had been doing. It was no new information. It was just, it got to the point it was insulting. You need to know your audience. You need to know who it is that you're talking to and where they are in their journey. So I'll give you some examples. I'll give you another story. In fact, a good friend of mine was telling me that she was looking for a health coach. So she herself is like a seven-figure coach. She was ready to invest. She wanted a health coach for the purpose of getting more energy. She was looking for a health coach, and she didn't know, like, am I looking for what kind of coach? Like, what kind of similar to the story I told you, the other story where I was looking for a professional. I just didn't know who it was going to be. So this was her. She was just like, I know I want to work. I know I want to work with someone ready to invest. I just don't know who it's going to be. So she starts on the search. Now there's a gazillion of us, right? Coaches in the health and wellness space. She could not find anyone. Why? What happened? Um, Either she would talk to people who were so um, captured by fear that they couldn't give her a good idea of what their program was. It was just kind of like, well, if you want this, I can do this. And if you want that, but no like confident thing. And the others went right into talking about weight loss because she had some pounds on her, but she actually loves it. She loves her figure. She had no desire to lose weight. So here ties back into what I was mentioning in my story. I didn't know this audience. I didn't know what they had come there to learn. So you never speak and teach when you don't know what the people are there, what they're coming for. That's a whole other subject. But this happened to my friend. So all these people she was interviewing or talking to, they all talked to her about weight loss. Well, she wasn't, before even asking questions, she was interested in losing weight. They just assumed. And it really turned her off of the whole idea of getting a coach. So why am I saying that? You know, Sometimes we do have all of these fears and we think, um, I can't do this. I don't know that I can do this because I would not be able to survive. We have these daydreams and these bad fantasies about horrible things happening and people leaving the room and um, teaching something that people don't need to hear or don't want to hear, or coming and presenting on something that it's not what people came for. And so the purpose of this video is I wanted to tell you is that I have lived through that. And I know what that feels like, and I know what that fear feels like. And then to have your greatest fear realized, you're talking about heart pounding, soul sucking feeling. But what I love seeing in the people that we work with, and what I look for now, I look for a very particular kind of client these days. And it's the ones who have that little light inside of them, that flicker that says, yeah, this is scary, but I'm definitely going to do it. I can do it. And I'm not going to let fear or frustration or anything stop me from doing it. I'm going to do the things and I'm going to move right through, even through tears, even through frustration. And that's what I did. And had I not done it, would never be able to enjoy the business that I have now. I would have given up and thought of myself as, oh goodness, what a screw up. But I knew that that wasn't the case. Even then, as horrible as I felt, I knew that that wasn't the case. So sometimes we do need to work on our mood and our energy and our feeling about ourselves and what we can provide, because it was great information. It was just being given to the wrong audience. So I just want to share that story with you. Remembering the point is you can even live through those worst fears. So don't be afraid to put yourself in a situation where people may not love what you're talking about. Don't be afraid to put yourself in a situation where people may all walk out. You can do it. In the next video, I'm going to tell you about another fear that a lot of us have who are in this health and wellness holistic space and who are speaking to grow their businesses. Another fear is around giving these events, and we kind of talked about that in another video, right? My story where the person was so disappointed at her small audience. Well, I have another story for you around that same thing, and I'm going to put that in the next video. See you in a minute.